If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload almost daily on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent sports talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on the video, it only takes 1 second, and it makes a massive difference. Today we are going to be talking about the Phoenix Suns, and I think I'm going to make this a bit of a mini-series within the 2K talks because the Kings video and the Grizzlies video did pretty alright. So I wanted to look at some of the younger teams in the NBA whose seasons are pretty much over, and the Phoenix Suns season is effectively over. Now if we can actually go over an overview of the season the Suns had, they actually came out of the gates looking very good. They were playing above 500 basketball, playing good defense, and hitting a lot of shots. I believe Aaron Baines was shooting like 50% from 3 in the first 15 games or something like that. However, that kind of shooting reliance was really what ended up being their downfall, because their hot start really was just that, and it was a hot start and there wasn't a whole lot of substance to it, so they ended up falling off to being a below average team once again. They ended the season with a 26-39 record, which was good for the 13th seed in the Western Conference, which is not good obviously. Now, as for some of the players on this team that are worth mentioning, I did mention Aaron Baines just a second ago. He has been fantastic for this team, and I haven't gone to like free agency stuff yet, but they should absolutely try and bring him back because his defense, his ability to box out, and his ability to spread the floor was fantastic this year. I still think it's ridiculous that they got rid of Aaron Baines, and the Celtics got rid of Aaron Baines in favor of Daniel Tice, when Aaron Baines is better at pretty much everything now. Devin Booker and Deandre Ayton are obviously the key guys to talk about here. Booker averaged 26 points per game on, I believe, the best efficiency of his career. Let me look that up. Yes, he had a 62% true shooting percentage, which was the best of his career. So Devin Booker had a career season, still brought in 6.6 assists per game. He played fantastic. DeAndre Ayton, in the 30 games that he played, took another step, averaging 19 and 12, with 4 of those rebounds being offensive. He's made further strides as a defensive player, shooting around 55% from the field, reducing some of his mid-range attempts, which was something annoying about his rookie year, but part of that was on the team. And then the other guy here to definitely mention is the cute-ass man himself, Kelly Oubre. He averaged 19 points and 6 rebounds on pretty solid efficiency. He pretty much plays within the flow of the offense. He's not one to force things too often, and he's pretty much the perfect third guy on this team. Ricky Rubio came in and brought some playmaking as well as defense, and he actually shot decently from 3, which is definitely helpful because Ricky Rubio can be pretty iffy as a 3-point shooter. Then, as for everyone else, as for some young players to talk about, Mikael Bridges, or is it? Yeah, Mikael Bridges, that's how it's pronounced. It's not Mikael Bridges, I don't know. He had a decent year. He's been somewhat disappointing as a 3-point shooter, and I think him becoming the really good 3-point shooter I kind of expected him to be would definitely be beneficial for this team, because defensively the guy is fantastic. He has really good instincts, and the guy has like a 9-foot wingspan. It's kind of ridiculous. So he can be a long-term defensive option. It would just be nice if he was a better 3-point shooter, which I definitely think is within the realm of possibility. Cameron Johnson, I still think, was a very stupid draft pick, because regardless of how good he is, taking him as early as they did was still a mistake, because they could have got further assets by trading back and drafting him. But he shot just short of 40% from 3 on nearly 5 attempts per game in his rookie season, which is obviously fantastic, and that's with him having played a lot of power forward, which is kind of what you have to do on this team with how many forwards they have, and we'll get to that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And actually, let's just get into the forward thing now. I don't think the forward thing is really a problem, and the simple reason for that is with how basketball is played today, and with versatility and positions not being as essential. All of these guys can play different positions. Like, Mikael Bridges can play shooting guard or small forward. or even power forward at times. Cameron Johnson can play small forward and power forward. Kelly Oubre can play small forward and power forward. So these guys all are going to be able to play plenty. The lowest minutes per game amongst these guys was 20 minutes a game for Cameron Johnson, and that's just because he's a rookie. I expect him to get more minutes in the future. Oubre played 35 minutes, Mikael played 27, and Johnson got 20. So minutes distribution is not really all that big of a deal with your small forwards because they can play different positions. It's not set in stone that they all have to play small forward. So when people say you have to trade one of these guys, I think that's kind of ridiculous because they can all play different positions, so it's fine. And all of them are pretty good players to hold on to. In terms of everybody else on the roster, I don't think they're really worth mentioning. Dario Saric was all right this year. That guy's been a massive disappointment in general. Frank Kaminsky actually played serviceable basketball for like the first time in his career, so that's nice. Ty Jerome played like garbage. I believe he was a rookie. Eli Okubo didn't play well. Javon Carter actually had a pretty good season. Granted, he doesn't play a lot, but he's shot well from three and also been a really solid defensive player. But that's about it for this roster. Now, as for... Wait a minute, what? I was just looking at their roster, and I noticed that they traded for Jonah Bouldin, and I didn't even notice that. Either that or they signed him because he got released. But they should definitely give him some minutes because he's actually a player that I felt has been deserving of minutes because he has a lot of potential to be a very versatile player on both ends of the court, being a very big forward. I didn't realize he was on this roster, so he's definitely someone worth looking at. He only played 3 games for them. As for the future of this team and some recommendations I have for how they can get this roster a little bit better, well, first I think we should look at the flaws. Defensively, even though they started off pretty well and they ended up not being horrible in that category, being 20th in the league, they could definitely see some improvement there. I'm going to make the same recommendation that I make for every single team in the league pretty much, and that is sign Jeremy Grant. I believe they will have the money for it, and he would definitely help their defense. If you had a starting lineup of Ricky Rubio, Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre Jr., Jeremy Grant, and Deandre Ayton, I think that'd be a pretty solid team, and then you have Mikael Bridges off of the bench. And I'd sign some other defensive players. I believe Chris Dunn is going to be a free agent, and they don't really have a set-in-stone backup point guard, so I think I would look at him as well as a defensive option as well as a playmaking option off of the bench. He's definitely underrated in my opinion. I don't understand Bulls fans that don't like him. But as for anything outside of that, basically I would just improve the defense. Now, long-term, really what this team is all about is how good do you think the duo of Devin Booker and Deandre Ayton can be. Now, I think there are a lot of people who go in 2 extremes on this. There are people that think Devin Booker and Deandre Ayton are the next Kobe and Shaq, which is a little far-fetched to say the least. And then there are those who think both of those guys suck, and I think that's ridiculous as well. Now, do I think these two as a duo have a championship ceiling? Not really. I think they're more like consistently pretty damn good playoff team level of ceiling as long as everything's built around them properly, which thus far nothing's been built on this team properly. I definitely think they can be a pretty good duo. I definitely think they could be a fantastic offensive duo. Deandre Ayton taking further steps as a defensive player would be fantastic. He came into the league looking shaky defensively. Now he's okay. It'd be great if he was really good, because if he became a good defensive player, that would make a massive difference for the Suns team. Now, with the amount of firepower this team does have, I do think 16th ranked in offense is a little bit suspect. I definitely think they could do better than that. Part of that I think could be furthering the playmaking on this team. It really is just Ricky Rubio and Devin Booker as the playmakers on this team. Like, literally it's Ricky Rubio 8.9 assists per game, Devin Booker 6.6, and then it's a drop off all the way to Frank Kaminsky at 2.2. So there really is no kind of playmaking on this team outside of those two, and in modern basketball you want more playmakers than that, so I would look for more playmakers than that. I did recommend Chris Dunn. He's a pretty solid playmaker. And outside of that, in the long term for this team, I think look for another scoring option, because I think Kelly Oubre is a little bit miscast as a third option. I think he's realistically more of a fourth option. And I also think just putting a bunch of defensive players around these guys would be the key. Now, long term, I might consider packaging one of either Devin Booker or DeAndre Ayton for a true superstar level player, because I don't think either of them, other than maybe Devin, are going to reach like actual like top 10 player level. And I don't even think Devin Booker is really going to reach that. So maybe down the line, when a player like that becomes available, you can package one of them while they're still relatively young. But in the short term, put some defensive players and some other playmakers on this team. In the long term, do something similar with less short-term options in that category, like drafting those types of players. I'm not going to make a draft recommendation because I have no idea, because I don't know anything about the draft. Like when I made that Desmond Bane video, that's because I've been watching Desmond Bane, but like the rest of the prospects, so many people in the comments were like, what about this player? I'm like, I've never heard of that player. But I would recommend, like I said, playmaking, defense, in the short term and the long term, and then long term, if these guys have the ceiling that I think they do, package one of Booker or Ayton and maybe even Oubre in exchange for a superstar level player, and then I think you can become a contender. Now, is all of this conversation even really worth it? Probably not, because the Phoenix Suns have been a poverty franchise for the longest time, not to the fault of the fan base or anything like that. This isn't a knock on them. They've just been horribly managed. So hopefully they can fix that, but I don't have a whole lot of hope in that category. But yeah, that's the Phoenix Suns and what's next for them in the short term and the long term. And that's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.